Hello everyone, friends, colleagues, acquaintances, and George Bush's weed whacker. Welcome to the 7th ever episode of the Communal Conversation. I'm Mr. Stebben, here with my guest, Chaya, Stebben. More on Chaya in a minute. First, our sponsor mention. This week's episode of the Communal Conversation is brought to you by our amazing sponsors over at EV Direct. EV Direct is the home of the Evolute, a smart multi-user electric vehicle charging system for condominiums. Go electric or go dig for oil. This week's episode is also sponsored by Custom by Shara. More on that during the mid-break. Chaya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. This is great. So this is definitely a different type of episode for me because this is actually the first formal conversation you and I have ever had.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I've known of you, and I believe my sister has been friends with you. I think
through high school a little.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So we've known of each other. It just hasn't been like a formal dialogue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have some mutual friends. I know your mom.
Yeah,
So,
right, exactly. She's actually really upset she couldn't, she's at an appointment right now. She's actually really upset she couldn't see.
Okay.
But she says hi. And I'm sure she's listening now. I reached out to you to ask you to be a guest on the show because I find what you do really, really cool and interesting.
Thank you.
So at this point, it's going to be who you are, where you're from, what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay, so my name is Chaya Stebben. I go by Moussie Stebben. My friends and my family call me that. And my business is called Moussie's Boxing and Fitness. So I guess that's what you can address me as if you'd like. So I'm a personal trainer. I'm a boxer. I teach boxing. I'm a student. And a big part of what I do is I teach women boxing and confidence and
Self-defense,
I don't know.
Right?
So kind of. I have a background in self-defense, a small background, but I guess I'll have to just explain like how I got to all of this so you can understand it. So when I was in school, I was 13 years old. So right before high school, my school brought in a woman who had IDF experience and was a martial artist, and they brought her in to teach us some self-defense. And I loved it. I fell in love with it right away. It just gave me this confidence that like nothing else gave me.
Interesting.
And I really felt like I could defend myself in a case where I had to, and I loved teaching other people what I was learning.
Right.
So I did that for 2 years while I was in school. I was in school in Boston at the time. And then, it was really fun, really great. But then the school ran out of funding, so I had to come back here to Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
And I, at that point, after 2 years of kind of doing this like self-defense, martial arts, Krav Maga style.
Obviously, you didn't want to give it up.
I didn't want to give it up, and I fell in love with the sport of MMA, of mixed martial arts. I found out who Ronda Rousey was. At the time, that year, she had blown up. She had won the fight against, who was it?
I remember there being a big fight.
There's many big fights with her, but she kept winning all these fights with arm bars and very short fights and stuff. And so I found out who she was. I fell in love with her. She became my hero. And so when I came home back to Toronto, I went to my parents. I was like, parents, I want to train mixed martial arts. So
modest proposal.
Yeah, right. So surprisingly, they were very supportive about it. My dad was very supportive as well, which a lot of people ask, was my dad supportive? Yes, he was. We just Googled, just did a quick Google search of a gym nearby, and they signed me up. And I trained. At that point, I was training 5 different styles of martial arts. So I was training Muay Thai, kickboxing.
Just curious, how old were you at that point?
So at that point, I was 15.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Starting early. Wow.
So awesome. So I was 15 when I started training like seriously at a proper, gym, a martial arts gym. So I trained a little bit of jiu-jitsu, Sistema, Russian Sistema. I don't know if you've heard of that one. It's
I have not.
Pretty wild. Used by like the KGB, just very interesting style of martial arts. I was doing Krav Maga, boxing, and what was the other one I was doing? Did I name 5 of them? Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai,
Russian one,
Russian
boxing.
Sistema, boxing. There was one other one I was doing. I can't remember what it was.
That's a pretty full portfolio regardless.
But it's a lot. It's, maybe a little bit of judo. I don't know. So I trained all of those for about a year and a half, 2 years, but I wanted to compete. And the gym only had a competitive boxing team. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to stick with the boxing team and see what I can do, because I want to focus on one thing, and I want to compete. That's what I want to do. So I trained, and the problem was that I grew up in a very religious Orthodox home, and all the fights here in Toronto are on Saturdays, or Friday night Saturdays, all the tournaments. And so it was very hard for me. It was frustrating because I was religious at the time, and I really wanted to fight, and I couldn't get fights and stuff. So I trained from 2015 to 2017 at that gym without fighting. But I got a lot of training.
Yeah. But I'm sure in your head the whole time you were like, oh, come on, can I actually do this
thing?
There
was, because it was interesting, because between the age of 15 and 17, I actually became non-religious. Right. So I had left the religious, the fold, and at that point I was very frustrated because my parents were supporting my training. They were paying for my training, and they weren't liking that my coach was kind of pressuring me. There's a fight on this Saturday. Do you want to go? Right. And they really didn't like that, because they're like, oh, this coach is a bad influence. So they took me out. They took me out. Yeah, they took me out, and I took a few months break. And I decided, you know what, I want to do this. I want to do this for myself. It's something I've been working for.
And by that point, you're almost 18, right? So
by that point, I'm 17. I'm almost 18. I want to do it. So
you make your own decisions.
Yeah. So I joined another gym. I joined a hardcore boxing gym, one of the most notorious boxing gyms in the city. And
I have a question quickly about boxing, just so I know. Do these gyms usually cater to both male and female, or are they gender segregated?
No, they're never gender segregated. There's obviously going to always be more males than females in a sport like boxing. I didn't think of that. Yeah, that makes sense. Right. It is a very male-dominated sport.
Right. But the gyms will cater to both. It's not like there's a specific female one and a specific male one.
The gyms will cater to both. I can tell you that for a lot of my training and a lot of the classes, I was the only girl. But I will say that over time, I have gotten the privilege to train with some really cool girls.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And that's really my favorite thing, is to be able to train with fellow girls, because it's better. Yeah, it's a girl, it flows better.
That was just a quick question out of curiosity.
Yeah. So I joined a new gym. And I figured, well, I'm going to be paying for my gym membership, so I need to get a job. So, so I was like, what do I want to do? I didn't really want to do anything except for teach boxing. I'm like, well, I can box, and I like to teach. And originally, the reason that I got into this is because I had such an amazing Krav Maga teacher when I was in school, and she inspired me so much. And I really was thinking, I want to be like her when I grow up. I want to be able to empower other girls and other women. So those
good teachers, you always hope that kids younger than you'll get them, because one good teacher can change your entire life.
Yeah. I mean, her name was Sensei Miriam. She changed my life. Miriam. She put me on this track that I'm on now, and if she hadn't come in and taught us those, just very basic
Who knows what it could have been?
Who knows where it could have been,
You could have been doing a real boring job.
Exactly. And I don't want to do a 9 to 5. I can't sit for, all day.
I could barely take an hour of this.
Right. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to teach. I'm going to teach women how to box.
That's awesome.
At that point, I was 18. I hadn't graduated high school, because when I had come back from Boston, my parents, being religious and all, they didn't want to put me into a public school. So or observant, as my dad would say. They're observant. So they didn't want to put me into a public school, and all of the religious girls' schools wouldn't take me because I just was different.
Also, they're not the highest caliber around here, so it's probably better you didn't end up
No, it definitely was. So what my parents did was they put me into one of those independent learning type schools where Well, you get your credits. It's all at your own speed. You show up to school, you do your work.
Right. Okay.
You give it to your teacher. It's very like kind of one-on-one.
That changes the whole dynamic of high school, though. It's not like a bustling social environment.
I didn't get like a high school experience.
Right.
I didn't get a prom. I didn't get any of that. The high school like.
Well, you wouldn't have gotten a prom at a religious school
stuff.
anyway. But
but
yeah, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm 18. I haven't graduated high school. I start my business, and so I find my first few clients. I didn't even have like pads because in boxing you need you gotta hit the pads, right? Yeah. So I just used a pair of gloves, extra gloves that I had, and I was training women until I can afford a pair of pads.
It's a hard grind, yeah.
I wasn't showing up to school because I was showing up to clients' houses all day and growing a business.
Right.
So I did graduate late. But I was very ashamed of that for a while, but now at this point I'm like, nothing I learned in high school is useful at all in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Actually relevant.
So the fact that you got your career jump started, that matters a lot more to you than something like a high school diploma.
Oh, 100%. Because I learned so much. I started my business at 18 and I'm 21 now, and I'm learning so much, and I've made mistakes in business, and I'm like,
I think that's really awesome. I'll make just a quick side point about education because I think right now what we're seeing. So I go to university, right? Okay. I'm a second year York University student studying psychology.
Oh, interesting.
Psychology is a tough, rigid field, so I do need university academic experience for that. However, I'm starting to think that in general, in North American society or British society, whatever it might be, that I think this idea that you're only valuable if you have a university degree is really not the greatest thing to be selling to kids.
It's kind of outdated.
It's very outdated.
Yeah.
Not just that, because it's not just outdated. It's also just because you have a university degree doesn't necessarily guarantee that you are top level intellectual. There are a lot of degrees out there that are just sort of, I don't know what the right word is. My high school friends would call them spew.
Yeah.
But and that's not to insult anyone, obviously,
right.
But just this notion that you absolutely need high education to succeed, so untrue. You get started in your own business and entrepreneurship and you get that stuff going, like that's going to be infinitely more valuable to you than something like education. And once again, it depends on the field you're going into. You're going into hard sciences, I wouldn't recommend starting a small business, but yeah.
Of course. And I mean, how many people do we see now in today's day and age that have their degrees and
and it's not getting them anywhere. Exactly. Yeah.
So, of course, it's very subjective to what you want to do with your life. But for me, I always knew I'm not going to, go to college or university for anything to
or you just sit there and take notes on
I don't
things.
Yeah, I've always been all over the place.
I don't blame you.
But I am in school now, but I'm in school for perinatal education and labor and postpartum doula. So
oh wow,
it's a little bit different, but in my mind it completely ties in my boxing business,
right.
And for me it's just it works.
And I'm sure you're at an institution you enjoy.
Oh yeah, I absolutely love it. This is the first time in my life that I enjoyed school. It's crazy to me, but I'm actually learning something that I've been wanting to learn, and I'm enjoying learning. It's like wild. It's
that makes such the difference, and a lot of kids don't realize it, because I do think education is important. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Higher education and the subjectivity of it we just discussed, but a lot of kids who get turned off by high schools that really suck at giving a kid what they want.
Yeah.
I wish they could see that if they were trying to go into a career like mine, that university really lets you choose what you actually want to learn.
Yeah.
Because in high school, you don't get much of a choice, especially in religious schools. I went to a wonderful religious day school called Yeshiva or Chaya.
Yeah.
Yeshiva.
Uh-huh.
And there were some academic choices, but mostly it was one or the other. But once you get to university, you really get to choose your own path selectively of education.
Yeah.
So people who are trying to pursue higher methods, don't give up just because of the horrible experiences you have in high school. You know?
Right.
And I know that sounds like a little bit of a paradoxical message from what I just said, but we're trying to isolate different types of careers, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Which is why I absolutely love going to school now.
Which is great.
I chose it for myself. Yep. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So, yeah.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Did we get too tangential from your story? What was I saying? so you're 18, you don't have pads yet, you're working up more clients.
So I'm skipping school,
Right.
I'm training clients, and I'm loving it. And then my parents find out that I'm not showing up to school, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you guys, you're right. I really just gotta like double down, finish this high school. So between fights and I didn't get to that part. By the time, so when
Yeah, right. That's okay. It's a communal conversation. Don't worry, not a rigid format here.
Love it. I'm a little ADHD. If you can't tell, so
don't worry about it.
It's gonna be a little all over.
We all are. We all own iPhones.
Yeah, that's true. You know, the Vine.
Oh God, we're the Vine generation.
Yeah, we're the Vine generation, and our attention span is like 6
when
seconds
7 seconds
long.
became comedy, we just
that's it.
Yeah,
it totally shaped the way that we like think.
Oh yeah.
So, anyway, I started working. I joined this new gym. Within a month, they get me a fight. I'm supporting myself, so I can do what I want. Thankfully, this fight falls out on a Thursday, so my father is able to attend. And
this is your first.
This is
like,
my
real
first
formal,
competition. My first competition. It was the best day of my life. It was.
That's awesome.
Everything that led up to it, the way that I prepared for it. I don't know if you know about law of attraction.
Vaguely.
It's the idea that you put something out into the universe, kind of like manifestation.
Right.
And I did just that. I manifested that fight, like every round of it. I trained so hard, and that everything.
That felt like everything was lining up.
Everything played out perfectly that night.
That's awesome.
And I won the fight. It was amazing. My dad was there. It was the best. It was the best. So, and my dad loves it. He's like my biggest fan. He screams like my dad's like a rabbi. My fight name is the rabbi's daughter.
And I know your dad vaguely. He's got the long gray beard and everything.
He's got the long beard. Yeah. He's very observant Orthodox Jew. And when he comes to my fights, he's screaming.
He'll cut loose, right?
Yeah, and
awesome.
Everyone loves it too, because it's cool to see like a rabbi just screaming
Get him!
profanities. You know, it's great.
Right.
So I started fighting. I was 18, started my business, and I graduated high school. It was a great time, great year, and that's when I got the ball rolling. I started picking up more clients, and I ended up doing a program for a local Jewish girls school here. At time I did like a confidence self-defense / boxing program for the girls.
They do that?
So we did a 10-week program with them.
That's awesome.
And it was all about empowerment, and this is for the like young girls. It was elementary school. So that for me was very. It gave me an idea of where I want to go with this. And it showed me how powerful it can be.
Well, because that probably stepped out of your general range of working with other adults.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing kids and the impact it can have, right?
Yeah, because at that point, my main client was kind of like 40-ish year old Jewish mom.
So that's definitely a gap there.
Which I absolutely love.
All right.
Though, that demographic is my favorite demographic to teach, because can you imagine a Jewish mom, she's busy, she has her kids, she takes an hour out of her day to just punch the crap out of them. Can you imagine? And
I'm trying to put my mom in that image,
and then and what comes with that is just a release. She'll tell me about what's going on. She'll tell me about her day. And with that, I've heard so many these women will just talk.
Yeah.
Sometimes I hear things that even their husbands don't know. So I hear everything.
I would assume at the same time you're expositing physical energy.
Yeah.
Like mental energy will also come with that.
Exactly.
Those things kind of tie together.
It's why working out is so important for your mental health, because you're releasing aggression, you're releasing energy, pent up, stress. It's so important. So if you can imagine punching all that stress out, it's very healthy. so but with teaching these girls, it just showed me that this is really powerful, and just like Sensei Miriam put me on the path that I'm on, who knows, I can put one of these girls on a path where they have the confidence to defend themselves.
Yeah.
You know, if they're ever in a situation where they need to do that, or they just have confidence. They're just a confident girl, which like is so needed.
Yeah, and I'm sure for you don't need to see numbers. You don't need to see stats. Like even if you just impacted one person, that makes the world a difference,
that's
right?
Exactly it.
That's
exactly
how I viewed a lot of my I guess just a little bit about me.
Yeah,
I mean,
go ahead.
People mostly know this if they listen to the show. But I psychology didn't come from nowhere.
Okay.
I have a bit of a background in fun life struggles. Let's just put it that way. This one something I'm still very proud of that I was able to do was in grade 12. And you find something to look up my name. I gave a speech on Bell Let's Talk Mental Health Day to my entire high school about my experiences, my dad's experiences. I lost him to suicide many years ago, and I was able to. I talked a lot about really, really deep personal stuff.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it was like there's no shame in this because if I even change one person's view, as in like, oh, other people have gone through something like what I'm going through.
Yeah.
Let me go and talk to people and get the help that I need.
Yeah.
I don't need to see numbers, I don't need to have all the people come up to me and say, oh, I changed my life.
Right.
Even like intrinsically, even if one person shifts their whole perspective, that's my goal. And I'm assuming that's something that transfers to what you're doing.
100%.
Yeah.
Really, like, first of all, that's amazing. I strive to have that level of openness and like confidence because of course, everyone's gone through struggles, some more than others. But
I learned that honestly, and this came to me a little later in life, but if there was anyone who was to shame me or think differently on me, not worth my time.
Right.
I've learned pretty easily that people who I don't know, their opinions don't really matter to me. Yeah. Like my family, my friends, my community, those are opinions that matter to me. But people that don't really know me and are just going to insult me or shame me for something I do, why should it affect me? I don't know you. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because that's something that I'm recently kind of learning. I've always been very like worried about what other people think of me. Even my family, my friends, and that's definitely affected me. But I wish I strive to be at that level.
It's hard. It was a hard mindset to switch. I mean, it takes a lot of confidence building work, but eventually I sort of just embraced myself as this weird Lego collecting guy,
amazing.
Which I love. Right.
Yeah.
But in high school, I used to be like, oh my God, who collects Legos for 10-year-olds?
Right.
And then I decided, oh wait, all my real friends don't care. Those are the opinions that matter to me, so I'm just going to be myself. You see my Instagram story. I'm very much myself all the time, right?
Which is great. Yeah. We need more of that,
Yeah, that's I don't know. I think that's really important. It's an important step for people to take, that really the only opinions that should matter is you of yourself. That's the big one. Yeah. Friends, family, community. Sometimes not, because to a degree.
I mean, we do come from a very unorthodox community.
Yes,
and we are different. I'm not Orthodox. You are, right?
Yeah. It's funny. I actually went through sort of the same stray away from ages 12 to maybe late 18. I was very anti-religion. I completely swung away from it. Mostly because of, ironically, you bring up Eitz Chaim, the treatment I received as a student at Eitz Chaim. I talked about this extensively in another episode with my friend Ezra. And anything that I said, I don't want to slam Eitz Chaim as an institution because this is something I experienced. I don't want to say that it's what everyone experienced. And what you're saying, for the record, actually, is really progressive on the part of the school.
Yeah, it is.
Which is really interesting, just considering the sort of stuff I heard. I mean, my grade 7 rabbi is the one who said to my class, not all terrorists are Muslims, but all Muslims are terrorists. That is something I heard in grade 7 of elementary school at Eitz Chaim.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't think that ever works anymore. But
hopefully not.
Yeah, I would hope not. But the point I was trying to get to was that
your journey.
My journey through religion. I really was completely detached from the concept. I absolutely hated rules. I didn't think there was a God. I was really. It was this sort of authority rebellion, I guess. I didn't like being told what to do. I was a kid, didn't have a male role model, growing up, and I was like trying to figure out what the hell to do with my life. But later, through some amazing experiences in high school, through some really good rabbis, and then sort of a self-discovery of what my own identity is outside of religion, made it a lot easier build an identity within religion. I became more comfortable with the concept of God, with the concept of orthodoxy, and I came sort of back to it. I'd say like towards the end of grade 12, but really most of my progression came in my first year of university.
Oh wow!
It was really interesting. So a lot of people worry, I'm sure you've heard this, that when you send an Orthodox or even a minority, someone who's less observant Jew into a secular university with 50 gazillion other cultures, they're going to lose their orthodoxy. They're going to go off the derech, which I hate. I hate that for those who don't know, derech is path in Hebrew, so it means go off the path of religion. Yeah. But it's so I had the complete opposite experience. I went there. I was pretty strong in my Jewish identity at that point. Wasn't keeping Shabbat. Wasn't even keeping kosher. Wow. This is September of 2019. Oh, wow. And I went there, and I wore my kippah and tzitzit every day. It was very important to me. And I'm on a campus of a lot of different cultures: Hindus, Muslims, Indians, Christians. Never, if anything, that actually really, really helped me have the most amazing university experience I've ever had, because I got to have conversations with people all across the spectrum of different, races, religions, creeds, doesn't really matter. Yeah. We talked to, I would talk to people about my faith, their faith, the differences, and people just tend to respect you if you're a nice person. 100%. I find, and with the kippah and tzitzit, I felt a little bit of an extra responsibility to represent an entire people in being nice and how I treated others, and it was great, and that really inspired me to keep more laws and rules, because I felt like, well, if I'm representing a whole people here, might as well actually practice it more in my own life, because it was goals that I wanted to reach eventually. Yeah. And then I made some really, really fun, cool Orthodox friends, which definitely helped a lot. Yeah. Because in high school, it was kind of cool to break religion. Right. But just surrounding myself with the right influences, and ultimately, I came back to it, which I've been absolutely loving. So.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's, identify with what you said about like loving your Jewish identity and having your kippah and tzitzit.
Right. For the record, no one should be shamed for lesser levels of observance. I've always been so against that. Yeah. And for the record, I mean, that's I'm come from Chabad background, so do you.
Yeah, so do I.
It's funny because the message of Chabad is like we celebrate what you do as opposed to shame what you don't do. Yeah. But you find the standards are different. That applies to people who are outside the Chabad community. I was
about to say that.
Within the Chabad community,
it's different.
Yeah, it gets very different. And also from what I've heard from my female friends, for girls, the standards are really, really tough.
I had a very hard time. Yeah. From the age of 12, actually.
Right. Stepping outside of that box in any form is like...
and for me, stepping outside of that box, you know what it was? It was just my skirt coming up above my knee.
Oh, heaven forbid.
And that was it. And that did it. Right. A lot of the parents of my friends were like, all right, you can't hang out anymore because you're a bad influence. And that traumatized me.
Yeah. Also, what do they think is going to happen? Are you going to, by shaming you, are you going to be like, oh, right, I will totally change my ways now?
And I'm 12 years old.
Yeah, right?
Like...
A 12-year-old should be under that intense scrutiny. You should be building...
Or boxing.
Or boxing, right. Yeah. So, don't want a false dichotomy there. But, it's definitely interesting.
It is, yeah. When you're in the community, it's very different from the outreach that goes on.
For sure.
But I think it's very beautiful what they do, trying to get Jewish people to connect with their Jewish identity and... passing out Shabbat candles. I loved doing that.
No question. And we're not bashing Chabad.
Not at all.
We're just talking about specific sects of people that seem to not always practice what they preach.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. But I mean, as I did have a period of time when I was kind of younger and I really hated religion. I was like, I don't want anything, but then as I got older, I really love my Jewish identity.
I think that's important.
And I strive to lead like a traditional Jewish life. Yeah. I have a tattoo, a Chai tattoo. Right, It's very against the rules, but it's like a Jewish,
You're just as Jewish as I am. Like,
exactly.
Like observances is not... People who discriminate on that stuff really are wasting their time, I think. Okay, so I just have a quick mid-break sponsor to shout out. So in addition to EV Direct, this week's episode of the Communal Conversation is sponsored by our good friends over at Custom by Chaya. Looking for a gift to give your friend, family, or significant other? Want something unique and personalized for any occasion? Custom by Chaya delivers custom, complex, hand-drawn portraits of anyone and everyone at affordable costs. Check out at Custom by Chaya on Instagram to place your order and tell them we sent you. Once again, check out at Custom by Shara on Instagram to order your custom portrait today. Sorry, I didn't mean to randomly assault you with that. I just like to have the guests through the thing with me. I need to figure out a better system for that than just randomly pointing at people.
I had like a,
Yeah. Although I will say, I don't know, 2 clipboards, a little much.
Maybe much, yeah.
Ironically, this one says Chaya on it. I don't know why.
Really?
Don't know why.
It is a very common name. Where we
That's definitely true. I have a good friend named Chaya.
Me too. I mean, don't we all? Yeah, so it's a very popular name.
All right, so we've talked very interesting about our personal journeys here.
Yeah.
The actual physical stuff you do, I find fascinating because I know nothing about that world.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 6 foot underweight. My arms are the size of toothpicks. Like, I've never really been into the physical stuff. I hope to. It's a goal that I want to strive towards. Yeah. I just have trouble building motivation for me to work out and do important things because honestly, like, I sort of float through life as a status quo. Like, I'm doing fine. What do I need to do this extra stuff
if it
for?
Ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. But I'm sure and I've had some other priorities in my life, fixing some chemical imbalances.
Of course, yeah.
But if I'm being honest, I do kind of hope for the day where it clicks that. Or not even just hope, because you can't just sit around and hope. I do want to work toward the day where it's like, okay, this is important to me.
Yeah.
Like, the physical health is just as important to me as something like mental health or my hobbies, right?
Well, physical health really does tie into your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
We know this.
Yeah.
This is not new, and I've seen, personally from clients how they have been able to completely shift their lives, change their lives through physical activity, getting into a routine of working out, 2 to 3 times a week. It's helped so many people push through difficult times in their lives.
No question.
Divorces, breakups, like just
whatever. and you hear all of it.
Like, I hear it all.
Right.
I go through it all with them, and I in some ways I almost feel like a therapist because.
No, that's valid. That makes a lot of sense.
Because I hold space for my clients. Like, my clients come in, or I go to them, and I direct them. I tell them what to do, and then once they get into, like, they know what they're doing. Yeah. Then the conversation starts.
Right.
They tell me what's going on.
Therapy is emotional output, so that happens through physical too.
Yeah, and I listen. I sometimes I'll say suggestions, but that's really not my job. But it helps. It's like mental health and physical health are just, you got to put them together.
Yep.
I think that eventually you'll probably find a time in life or an opportunity in life where you'll maybe find a sport that you like or an activity that you like to do, and you might feel it. You might.
I really hope so.
It might make a difference.
I really do hope so. I strayed away from sports in high school and elementary school, and honestly, I don't know how much you can tie the two together. Maybe not having a male role model or dad in the house did something to affect that. I don't know. It's not something, like, I don't blame anything. It's not something, I'm not looking for a cause for that, but I hope at some point that my physicality becomes more important to me, I guess. Than just like the standard floating through life, like, oh, I'm fine, who cares?
Yeah. A lot of people do that until you wake up one day and you're like 45. Like, damn it.
Okay, all right. I'm not going to be in school for like 10 years, so that might as well happen.
Yeah.
Interesting. So actually, I was going to ask you this because I had a friend on my 3rd episode of the podcast, my good friend Eli Avital. So he's very into biohacking. He's very into eating very specific foods.
Okay, yeah.
He wears these red sunglasses that block out blue light. The second the sun goes down, he wears them all the time. He's one of my favorite people in the world. He's crazy, super healthy, nutritious, and he works out a lot. That's really important to him. Yeah. And he's not the only one. I have a lot of friends that work out that seem to be discovering fitness, I will say, fairly recently.
Okay.
Do you think there has been some sort of movement toward more fitness in the past 5-6 years?
Yes.
Yeah?
Absolutely. But you said 5-6 years. I'm thinking like pandemic.
Like, yeah. You know what? Actually, that's more relevant. Yeah.
Yeah. Because gyms are closed.
Because Doug Ford is so smart at walking everything
taking care of your health.
Clothing are an essential, okay? That makes sense.
I don't even get me started.
No, I know, yeah.
But yeah, so fitness during pandemic is very important. I don't even know where to start here. I'm just trying to I'm trying to organize my thoughts.
No, it's good. It seems like there's a lot of excitable resources.
Yeah. Listen, gyms are closed. What are we going to do about it? The weather's getting nicer. You have no excuses. There is so many online resources, and I'm loving this like boost. People, I have a client who has completely made a full change in her health over this pandemic. She took the pandemic and made it hers.
Wow.
She said, we're going to be, I'm stuck inside. I can't do anything. I'm going to work out at least 3 times a week. I'm going to fix my diet. I'm going to work on my mental health, and, some people haven't been able to do that. And it's totally understandable. You're stuck in your house.
Depends on the person.
Depends on the person. It depends on your environment. So unfortunately, some people are stuck in some really toxic environments.
Right.
But I really love this like, interest that people have, this new interest in fitness and getting healthy. I think it's possibly inspired by the pandemic, but also you did say over the past 5-6 years, like,
because I was thinking so like a figure like, I don't know, you got to tell me if I'm wrong here because this is your world, but I feel like a figure like Joe Rogan who is really prominent in culture and really pro working out, talks about it on most of his episodes, and really and he's not the only figure up there that stresses the sort of important stuff. I feel like there has been, because of the internet, more of a cultural shift towards this sort of stuff, right?
Totally.
Yeah? Okay.
Totally. I mean, it obviously depends on who you like watch and who you're influenced by, but lots of people are positively like influencing when it comes to taking care of your health. And I love Joe Rogan, by the way.
Yeah, no, me too. That's why I bring him up. And he's I think he's the most prominent broadcaster in the world. Yeah. I mean, podcaster in the world. Yeah. He's up there somewhere. So just because of his large audience, the fact that he can put something like that out, and it seems like a lot of people really do take to that message.
Yeah, of course. I'm just thinking also, like, maybe it's the people that you're around that you're noticing are taking like an interest in fitness. Right. But it might be because I think like guys around, once they hit a certain age, like some of them kind of like to get into like working out and fitness. Early
life crisis?
Not really though. Like more of like, maybe it's like a body image thing, or just I want to be a healthy person. But I feel like some young people, sometimes in girls too, but I think like a lot of guys too. Because my brother is 18 now, 17 or 18. And I noticed when he was like 16, 17, he started getting into like doing the curls, and the shoulder presses and everything. Right. I think that maybe the people that you're around, like around that age group, start to really get into fitness. I don't know. Like,
I think you're right. Actually, yeah, it does seem to be a new modicum of people's personalities once you hit like 18 to 20. Yeah, or
like after 21. High school, like
it's really post high school, because high school you've got enough hormones and things to deal with in your brain, and not everyone can afford gym equipment. Yeah. People are a little bit intimidated when you're in high school going to the big gyms, but it does seem like post that, like definitely university. And a lot of universities have great gyms and resources to encourage that sort of stuff.
Exactly. So, that's what I think it is.
Yeah. I have an incredible story. One of my good friends, I won't mention him by name, but he's definitely listening. Known this guy since I was 4. Yeah, something like that. He's had serious blood clotting issues for years. He's been in and out of the hospital. He's had to take transfusions all the time. It's been really, really tough on him. And like, as a really close friend of his, it's always tough to watch. And of course. But recently, I would say over the past year and a half, I think it started a little bit before the pandemic, he started working out. He built a gym in his basement. Mm-hmm. He has not had to have a single hospital appointment since, which is incredible. He has completely transformed how his entire physiology works. Yeah. To the point where the issue that he's been having for years, barely relevant.
Absolutely, I believe it. Yeah, I've seen it.
Right, there's so many stories like that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's so important. Mm-hmm. It's so important to move, even if you're not overweight, even if you don't want to get big, and right. It's just important to move. Yeah. You gotta move your body, like, and again, like, there's no excuse. Yeah, but. You can do, there's so many resources. Yeah, and that also actually, honestly, that makes me question, I'm going into a very Western medicine field, right? Yeah. And as much as we all love Western medicine, it doesn't account for everything, right? There are shortcomings to Western medicine. And
I don't know. I'm wondering how this could be applied as a treatment, because someone like my friend,
yeah,
where they tried so many different pills and injections and treatments, but really it was his own initiative taking on his physical health that ended up solving the issue. I mean, how do you even implement that?
Did they never suggest to exercise?
Good question. I don't think it was heavily encouraged, as far as I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because a little bit of exercise can just fix a lot of things. I mean, of course, not taken away from, if you need to take your medicine. But, But, exercise.
Yeah.
Just do it. Like, exercise.
No, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, because considering how many pills I'm going to throw at people or have to, like, at the same time, I don't want to knock on antidepressants or this
not
sort of
at
stuff.
all.
Certain
not at all.
certain pills for anxiety and depression are really dangerous and addictive, and I can't believe they're on the market.
Yeah.
But there are other really powerful stuff that people do need, and I don't want to undervalue that. But at the same time, I think the sense of actual self-initiative in correcting your problem is really, really important. But it's very hard to encourage
when you're in that state.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah. So it's something I want to think more about. And honestly, I would have to get more into my own physical health before trying to apply that to treatments or others. But
yeah. I mean, I myself have experienced. I've struggled also with depression and pretty severe anxiety.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the pandemic, when everything shut down, I didn't work out. I didn't want to work out. I didn't want to move. We get up out of bed, eat a nice breakfast, put on a TV show, sit around, maybe go for a walk.
Very sedentary.
But working out, because for me, like, I love like leaving the house, going to the gym. It's such a great ritual, because you're getting out of your environment. And once you're in the gym, your body knows, all right, it's go time.
Right.
And then when you get back into the house, it's like, okay, now we can relax. So for me, as an athlete, that's how it's always been. Like, even in my competing days, like before the pandemic, I was so lazy at home, because I would do all my work outside of the house, all my road work, all my training. I never trained in the house.
Yep.
In the house was time to sit down and do nothing. Like,
for the record, people are having that issue with online school, where you go to school, your brain goes to campus mode. You're like, yeah, I got to do work here. But when everything's at home at the same time, your brain doesn't really know the difference.
Yeah, it's like how they say you're not supposed to do like your homework on your bed, because then you won't be able to fall asleep.
Yep.
Which totally makes sense. So
and then you associate your bedroom with stress, and your bedroom should not be associated with stress.
Exactly. So yeah, I wasn't working out for months. I mean, maybe once in a while I'd get a workout in, but I felt the physical change in my body. But like, most importantly, I felt my mental health completely go down.
Right.
And it wasn't until the weathers started getting warmer last summer.
Yeah. So like May, April.
That's when I started getting out, doing workouts outside. I noticed a complete shift in my mental health.
Right.
I can't even begin to like explain to you how my depression went away. And I was doing other things. I think it's very important to take vitamin D for your brain.
Oh yeah, most Canadians are very deficient on vitamin D, right?
But I decided to take a strict routine of, I'm going to take my vitamin C, vitamin D, my zinc, as part of other things that I'm taking.
Right.
And I started exercising every day, doing my workouts, and oh my god, I felt so, like, I was on a roll for a really long time. I didn't feel depression coming for not until recently, actually, when they locked down again. Yeah, that's when I felt it. I had like a week where I was like, I can't.
Because it feels like this is never ending.
It's exhausting.
Because every time the politicians promise this is the last time, it's never the last time.
It's never the last time, and it's only going to get worse, you guys.
This is why I'm a libertarian.
It's not going to get better.
Yeah, this is why I'm a libertarian. Don't trust politicians. It's just a bad idea.
No.
Don't put your faith in people you actually know and trust.
Yeah. And when it comes to health, you got to take care of your health. That's the most important thing. You want to be locked down and scared of getting sick, like, that's one thing, but take care of yourself.
Of course, yeah. There are things you can do within the confines of being locked down. If you're someone who wants to play it safe, obviously there's no shame in that.
Yeah.
But to think that should define your entire lifestyle and every action should be defined by fear, that's the way to live a really not fun life.
And living in fear is it's gonna kill you.
Of course.
It's
no,
like
it actually makes you age faster, for the record.
Yeah.
There is this is this is totally maybe on a different topic, but I do think there is this factor in the career that you work in and the people you're surrounded by, the energy you exposit, that will keep you younger. Because people who stress out more, who have certain issues or stuck in really traumatic, awful environments, I mean, they do get gray faster. Like my therapist, my amazing therapist who changed my life towards the end of 2020, early 2021, she really kept telling me, like, Yosef, you're gonna give yourself gray hairs. Like, really, you're worrying about way too much. And one of my favorite examples is my comic book store owner. Yeah. So, I'm big into this sort of stuff. There's a store called Cyber City Comics right around the corner from here. Yeah. I go there every week. I'm a weekly customer. The store owner is basically like my surrogate dad at this point. It's amazing. He's in his 50s, I believe. Looks like he's 32. Looks like he's 30. Because he is in like...
What does he do?
He sells comic books. He goes to comic book conventions. He's talking to young people all the time. And he's like very... some would say immature, more blasé sort of stuff. So I do actually think it's kept him young, and he believes it too. There's not a single. He's awesome. He's one of my favorite people in the world.
Living his best life.
Yeah. So and more so to what you're doing and what people can do in terms of their physicality and upkeeping their mental health. I think that is something you will actually see with people, right? Totally. Positively transform.
Well, absolutely. I've seen amazing transformations with my clients. Weight loss, but not just that. There's so much more. Just you come to life again when you actually love yourself. You love your body for what it can do. Yeah. And you're confident, and your brain is just leveled. Like you know what I mean? Yeah. But definitely, if you. In my field of fitness, for sure, it'll keep you young. Yeah. In the field of boxing, I can't say that. No, it'll age you much quicker.
Really?
Yeah, boxing is extremely detrimental on the brain.
I wasn't sure if I wanted to bring that up or not, because I did study that in my psychology courses, the type of brain damage that can happen during boxing. So maybe you want to speak a little on that? I'm curious.
I've been sparring since I was 16 pretty frequently.
I don't even think you ever specified. You're 21 now?
21 now.
Okay, right. You're a year older.
At my old gym, there was a period of time where the coach would have us spar 3 times a week. We'd be wearing headgear, but
the headgear still bashes into your head.
Headgear is a little bit, it's kind of controversial because it protects your face from cuts. But does it protect you from the effects of a punch to the head?
Your brain's going to jostle no matter what you put around it, unless you're wrapped in bubble wrap, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And I'm 21, and I can tell you that I feel the effects of getting hit in the head for that, and I've gone through quite a few concussions. It's bad. It's and the things that we know now, I think the research for concussion research right now it's amazing what we've discovered. We didn't know this stuff 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah, you see it a lot in football players too. That seems to be where the bulk of science is coming from in terms of brain jostling.
Absolutely, right? And because of football, I mean, they've been doing research on the football players for concussions. So concussions, so I've definitely felt the effects. I think my speech has been affected. I can't think of like what I'm gonna say. It's very hard for me to think of like words I'm gonna say next. I used to be like a great speaker. I could talk. I could hold conversation. Now at this point, I have a very hard time thinking of like how I'm going to speak. It's like I don't know.
You lost a little bit of the inner Ben Shapiro of the 50 words per minute sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've seen so many fighters. I've been in this industry since I was 15. I've been around so many fighters, and I've seen over like the years just fighters like their speech just go down. It's not good. It's not good. Boxing.
Is there any form of remedy for that?
No.
Is really
no, like. I mean, boxing is not. If you want to get into box, like I'm not saying. Listen, I teach boxing. That's what I do. I don't get my clients to spar. It's not contact boxing, and I still think the active boxing is so great for confidence. It's great exercise. But I'm talking about the sport of boxing right now. I heard on the Joe Rogan show, I can't remember who was speaking, but they were talking about. I think it was GSP was on. They were talking about how one of these doctors, one of the big ones, said that now that they've discovered that even soccer for young kids is bad.
Really?
Yeah, it's bad. Like even just like think of like bumper cars or stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Even that stuff is so bad for the brain for a young person. Like we used to not think of that stuff as dangerous.
I didn't until this very moment, actually.
Yeah, but even like he was saying how like if you take your kid and like rock them back and forth on the shoulders like that, that's horrible for the brain. So if you can imagine like sparring 3 times a week, getting hit pretty hard in the head. I've had experiences like that are just like so questionable. Like why would I do that? Right. Like one time I was like a week before my fight, and typically we do all of our sparring like before that. Sometimes they'll have us spar like one time before the fight, the week of, but it's mostly just conditioning. And my main coach was out. I think he was out of town, so we had our kind of second coach, right? Keeping tabs on us. And this was a few days before my fight, and he said, "All right, we're going in for sparring." And listen, in amateur boxing, you don't complain, you don't ask questions.
Right.
When you're in the gym, right? Like you do what you're told, And he had beginners come into the ring, just beginner guys that walked into the gym, people who hadn't been training for very long, and that's who you don't want to spar. Like if I'm going to spar a guy who's much heavier than me, I would much rather spar a level-headed professional fighter who knows what he's doing, rather than a beginner who doesn't know what he's doing. And that's because obviously somebody who knows what they're doing can remain calm and collected and calculated. So I was put in with this kid who was like 200 pounds, had only been boxing for a week. And, this coach put me, I was like, what is he doing? Put me in with him. I didn't ask any questions. The kid threw a hard right hand at my head. I felt my knees buckle, saw stars. I knew at the moment, I'm like, that's it. All right. That's a concussion for sure. And Oy. Yeah, and I told people, and people were just like, "Oh, that's kind of not good." And there was only one other female coach actually who was like, "I really don't think you should fight this week." But otherwise, people were just like, "All right,
walk it off."
Walk it off. Like it's there, and not to say that there isn't coaches and people who are putting in real work for like concussion prevention or I don't know the actual term for it, but there's these really great coaches that come in and do like brain exercises with fighters.
Really?
Yeah, so they're in the gym, they're doing their workout, but then also another coach comes in and does all this like cognitive like brain stuff with them.
Awesome.
So like
that makes a lot of sense, because there is ways to keep the brain more neat and tidy in addition to doing stuff like that. So
and like I've never done that stuff, but man, that would have been so great when I was younger, like training.
Did you end up doing that fight?
I did fight, yeah. I can't remember. Yeah, and I've had a few concussions. You just can't do anything. Like you gotta lie in bed and do nothing. You can't really watch TV or anything. But for one concussion, I got GSP's book. And I read it, and I just remember it being an amazing book and how much it inspired me, but I couldn't tell you one thing from the book. I couldn't tell you anything.
You got the feelings, but you don't have the semantics.
I can't remember one thing from that book.
Wow.
But yeah, like
that's straight out my worst fear in life. This is why I never get hard drunk or touch any hard drugs, because my worst fear is being on autopilot and then not remembering things that I do.
Yeah.
Because I kind of like to know the things that I do. I kind of like to remember and keep track of things. Like recently, I've been having times where my sister or my friends will tell me things that happened years ago.
Yeah.
And then I don't actually like remember a single detail, and I'm like, what? Why do I not remember a single? Obviously, it's because it's been a while.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't like that feeling. I
Okay.
really don't like that feeling. I
See,
really
that
like knowing things.
To me a lot.
Yeah,
that's
right.
me a lot. It's like it does worry me. So I don't know if I'm gonna box again. I don't know.
So that was my follow up question.
Yeah.
Is, do you see your future career?
I really want to. Like, I can't wait till things open up again and that I can box again. But it does worry me because I want a long career. And, back when I was training at my old gym, there was a guy, his name was Greg. He was an amazing young fighter, amazing, one of the best in the gym. And everyone admired him. He moved so nicely. He won every fight.
Cool.
And then one day he just left. And we were like, why'd you leave? Like, and he said, I want to preserve my head, and I want to go to school. And everyone thought he was so stupid. Everyone was like, "What? You're a great fighter. Like, what's wrong with you?" But now I'm like, I totally get it because you're young, and we know so much more now about the brain. Is it really worth it? Like, and especially professional fighting as a female, you get paid nothing.
Right.
You get no television time. Like, so
it's not all guts and glory.
Is it really like? I can't even begin to describe to you like the feeling of fighting because it's amazing and it's like nothing you'll ever experience. Yeah. So it is something that I'll have to like really think about. Because of course I would love to fight again. I would love to get back into fight shape. There's nothing like it.
But it seems like that's a genuine, ironically, wrestling with that question in your head.
Yeah, I guess you just gotta get really good at moving your head and defense. You don't get hit, but like, who's really not gonna get hit? You know, like unless you're the best.
At some point, you're gonna have to figure out if even if the thing that makes you the most happy is it the exact right thing for your life, right?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say it makes me the most happy because I really feel fulfilled teaching.
Teaching, okay.
I feel so fulfilled. Like, I'm so young, but I'll be walking back from a client's house and I'll just feel so good. Like,
you did something. Yeah.
Like I did something. Yeah. I helped her day.
That's awesome.
She feels great about herself now. And she feels powerful and confident. She can take on her day now. Like, that makes me feel so good.
Yeah, you feel fulfilled. You did something really good. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's funny, actually, you mentioned this dichotomy between the thing that you enjoy the most, but might not necessarily be the greatest choice for your life. I faced that a little, definitely not to the same extent.
Yeah.
But in high school, so through I'm a big fan of films. I love films. In fact, our mutual friend Bill Thorne will be coming here to watch a movie tonight. And so really big. I have an app that I keep track of all my films. Like I rate stars over 600 movies. I'm very intense with that stuff. And I wanted to do it as a career because film is awesome. I love the feeling of being behind a camera. I also like being in front of the camera. And I really, really wanted to pursue that. However, it sort of dawned on me that this is not to knock anyone in the film industry, but it's not always the most stable, smart career plan to jump into. I wish the Jews ran Hollywood would make my life a lot easier. But unfortunately, we do not. It's not an automatic shoo-in. So I applied to all my universities in film. And my mom, who's amazing and supportive of everything that I do, she was like, yeah, you should do the career you want to do. That's great. But I came to this crossroads. I was like, okay, I really like film. I really like psychology. Psychology is definitely a lot more fruitful as a career. So even though film may be my intrinsic ultimate passion, I think if I put my eggs in the psychology basket, it will be far better off for me. And that ended up being the right decision for me, and I really love psychology, and I don't sit here every day thinking like, oh man, I wish I went into film. There are a couple times I've said that on some really hard exams, but but that's more hyperbolic. But yeah, so I had to come to this crossroads of like, what's the thing I really want to do the most, but at the same time is practical for my life. And this is something that it's not just you and I dealing with this. So many people I know are dealing with this exact struggle. Like, I want to be a YouTuber or an actor, or I want to do these big glorious things. And I'm always someone who believes that if you have a passion on something, you should pursue it. But I'm also a believer in practicality. Like, there is a balance, right?
But not to say that you can't do it on the side.
No. Yeah.
Which is why, like, listen, I'm the same exact way. First of all, I totally love that you're doing what you love to do. And is this going to make you the most money in the long run? Hopefully it does. But also, you have your main career. Same thing with me. Like, I love what I do, but is teaching boxing going to be the main living that I make? I don't know. For the life that I want, probably not. So I went to school so that I can have like a career, in the birth industry, and and then also have a career in the industry that I love. That's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about both, but that's going to be like my money-making career, and this is going to be what keeps me happy. Hopefully both, but you can totally do film. You can totally do the things that you love.
I've been trying here and there. I also have. There are times where I tried to make films, and I was so terrible at it that it turned me off. But I'm really flipping on that because I was in high school. I can't expect to be Steven Spielberg, like.
Of course. But people. I can't remember who said this, but there's like 5 things that you need in your life. Like you need like your main source of income. You need a hobby that's going to make you money. You need a hobby that's going to keep you healthy. There's like a few more. I can't remember. I just remember those 3 because that's what pertains to me. But
and I've actually wondered a little. I really love psychology. For the record, even though film was something I really wanted to go to, totally happy with when I switched to psychology. It's not like fully secondary. I'm very happy with doing that.
Yeah.
But I've wondered. I've actually stopped psychology from being a full hobby sometimes because I worry that if I cross hobby into career and I get sick of my career, I'm going to get sick of my hobby, and I'm never going to want to re-enter that.
Yeah.
So I'm always having conversations with people. If you ask me anything about psychology, I can give you an answer straight away. But in terms of how I spend my own personal time, usually it's with hobbies outside of psychology. So there's a bit of a distinction, because if psychology was everything in my life, I'd probably get sick of it pretty fast.
Yeah, totally. Which is like, I see you have other hobbies, which is so great for your mental health as well, and just keep you going. For me, like I picked up guitar over the pandemic.
Musical instrument, that is really, really good stuff.
That pushes your brain. It really does.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I didn't grow up playing any instrument, so, like, just like you said, like, you gotta keep things going. You gotta keep your brain stimulated. And, that's what I did.
That's really good. And I do it a lot with my Lego. I gotta say, so pro Lego therapy. Just being able to create things. I think it's made me more creative and imaginative ever since I was a kid. And it's so relaxing. I can't even one of my favorite things is that my hobbies, and I think most hobbies, I always encourage. I'm a big believer of hobbies, as you can tell, but with people around me, because a lot of people when the pandemic first started don't really have those sort of hobbies. And I had a lot of people asking me like, "What the hell do I do with my time?" But if you're going to pursue a hobby, I would highly, highly recommend. This is just a general audience. Don't have screens involved in the hobby.
Of course, absolutely.
Bad idea. Binging Netflix is not a hobby.
It's not a hobby.
As much as I love to do it,
waste your time. You're going to get nowhere.
So my favorite thing is that Lego, nothing to do with screens. I will shut all my screens off, maybe put some Kanye West in the background, but and just build Lego. And I'm actually doing things with my hands and physically, like, it's great. I love it. Also, there is some science that it actually does cognitively help kids with depression, so that's great. So very pro hobby and very pro hands-on sort of hobby, like guitar, like Lego, like whatever it might be.
Do you feel that during the pandemic you've gotten more into your hobbies or busier with your hobbies?
I would definitely say so. My bank account would definitely say so. Because I've had so much spare time, I have had a little more time to be in touch with my hobbies, but I actually branched out very creatively. With Lego, I won't talk much about my Lego evolution, but I ever since I was a kid, I've always been mostly building things with instructions. You get the box, you get the sets, you pour it out, you build with instructions. Sometimes I would do my own little stuff, but really during the pandemic, I started to build my own stuff. I started this project on my Instagram of building a Lego city, which I'm sure you've probably seen here and there. And I started designing my own buildings, designing my own ships, designing my own cars, and that opened up a whole new
this is amazing.
Thank you. The Apple Store, the cinema, and the Wayne Tower, all and the Chabad House in the middle. Those are all my design.
There's a Chabad House too. I love it.
Talking about the giant menorah. And so instead of just building things from instructions, I really opened up to doing things myself. And that was a whole new door to my hobby. And now I love building things myself. Like, as much as instructions are fun, there's no better feeling of like, I built this building with my design. And I don't know, I'm really proud of that stuff for other people.
No, I love that. That's great. I mean, it's just like anything, painting or drawing or music,
you really wish that this could be career stuff for people. You wish that we lived in a world where art was sustainable for everyone. And that was,
it's very hard to make a living being a creative, which sucks for a lot of kids because, like, I knew quite a few kids growing up who just loved music, and are so passionate about it and talented kids. And then you graduate high school and they're like, listen, you're not gonna be able to make a living doing this. You gotta choose. Sucks. It really sucks.
I know. but it's the reality of life. We can't. It can't. Unfortunately, the fun can't always be the career. But But then you can inject fun into your career. Like
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think during this lockdown, like it's given people the actual time to get into things. My dad started playing the cello.
Really?
Like what?
Oh, aren't those expensive?
Well, I think he rents one, but he started taking lessons. Like,
whoa.
And but like my point is, you know, you can stay. This is the busiest I've ever been in my life.
Right. Which is funny because you're legally supposed to be the least busy in your life.
Yeah, but it's just given me, you know, the time to focus on so many things. I can focus on my school and my hobbies and my business.
Me too. My biggest shift away from mental health issues occurred during this time. Yeah. Because I was spending the most time with myself, with a good therapist, and I wasn't like going to school. I was constantly alone. Yeah. And I used to hate being alone, honestly. One of my biggest, through all of high school and through early university, was like, I could hang out with friends and it would be amazing. I had the greatest time of my life. Second I get home and I'm alone, oh, this sucks. It's just me now.
So you're very extroverted.
I flipped completely though.
Okay.
In early 2021, I started actually liking myself.
That's great.
Right. But it was a big shift, and I started actually enjoying spending time with myself, being okay with not being with friends all the time, and that occurred, honestly, I think, without this lockdown. Now, obviously, no one wants lockdowns, but you can take the good from the bad, and I would say that without the situation, I don't think I would have the level of confidence that I have today. Yeah. So it's always good to recognize those things.
Absolutely, yeah. Wow, that's amazing. That's great.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So we discussed a lot of topics here.
Yes.
We were all over the clipboard in terms of stuff, which is great. Do you have any closing statements, anything you want to shout out, anything you want to say? Where can people find you? Would you like to be discovered? You can find
me on Instagram. My business page is Moussie's Boxing and Fitness. I'm seeing clients virtually. The weather's getting nicer, so hit me up. We can train outside. And stay active.
Stay active. I'll make sure to put her information in the description of the video, and the actual video, and the Instagram post, and all that stuff. Speaking of Instagram, please follow the Communal Conversation.
Follow the Communal Conversation
on Instagram. We're trying to grow the brand a little, and I've been, for the record, I want to once again thank all my listeners, my 3% listening audience in the Netherlands.
It's gonna grow.
And
wow.
I don't know. My 3% in the UK, 18% in the US, and the rest in Canada. Thank you to every single listener. I really appreciate it. I love doing this, and all the feedback and comments I've been getting is absolutely fantastic. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like the video and subscribe. I got a lot of nice feedback from a little video I did last week on the Star Wars game, and it seems like little videos are something you guys enjoy, so maybe I'll do more of those. If you have any questions for the next episode you want to be addressed by me or my mysterious guest, then leave them in an Instagram DM or in the comments below. And once again, just want to thank the sponsors, EV Direct and Custom by Shar, for sponsoring the show. Thank you so much for being on, Chaya.
Thank you
really
so much
appreciate
for having me. It was great.
Awesome. And that closes out the Communal Conversation, episode 7.